Hey everybody, welcome back to my backyard where we're cooking over live fire with the Sea Island Forge fire kettle. Today we're making a beef stew right over that live fire. Can't wait to show you. So I've got my Sea Island Forge kettle ready to go with a nice high heat, a really solid coal bed, a couple logs under that sidekick with my cast iron pot. I'm gonna take my beef stew meat here. I've got a nice mixture of some chuck and actually some tri-tip that I had left over today. And I'm gonna go ahead and get this seasoned really well. I patted it dry with some paper towels already, and now I'm gonna season it really well with my JD's Backyard Brisket rub. You could also just get a really nice blend of kosher salt and black pepper. You could use some fresh ground black pepper, use a nice coarse grind, and really a lot of your seasonings coming from this, so kind of don't be afraid too much to over season your beef right now. And you don't want to go too heavy, but get a good bit of salt and pepper on the beef, and it's all going to cook down in that stew later. And now that I've got all that mixed up, I'm going to head over to my kettle, check on this cast iron pot that I have. So I've got this cast iron pot over a nice high heat here, and I'm going to get a little olive oil. This is regular olive oil, not extra virgin. Extra virgin is gonna scorch pretty quickly. So this is just regular olive oil, and you can see I'm cooking pretty hot because that's starting to shimmer already. And now I've got that seasoned beef, and I'm gonna do this in a couple batches. Oh, but that's what I want, that sizzle right there. You can absolutely take a couple batches to do this because you don't wanna overcrowd the pan. So I'm gonna split it up into 2 batches here and let that beef brown really nicely in this cast iron pot. I want that Maillard reaction. I want it to be browning. While that beef is browning and I wanna just let it sit there, I'm gonna go ahead and chop up my onion. We're gonna do a nice coarse chop. This beef stew, a very rustic beef stew, and it's gonna have some nice chunks of potato and carrot in there. It can really have some nice chunks of onion as well. So I'm not gonna do a dice, I'm gonna do kind of a rough chop on this onion, and that's gonna leave it to where there's actually pieces of onion in the stew. So rather than going a full dice, I'm just gonna not nearly go as fine, just a nice coarse chop. Let's take a look at how our beef is browning. All right, so I'm really letting the beef brown on that bottom side, but I'm gonna give it a stir. So I've got all my beef browned off here, and I've got my onion chopped. So now I added a couple more tablespoons of olive oil, and I'm gonna go into the pot with my chopped up onion. And now I'm gonna make sure I give this a nice stir, and now I'm just gonna let them cook down. I'm gonna smash some garlic cloves. I've got plenty garlic here, 10 to 12 nice sized cloves. If you've got some small ones, that works too. Can't really measure garlic, you just gotta cook with love. And what I'm doing is I'm smashing these cloves and then pile it all up, and just a very rough chop. And now that garlic is also ready to go into my stew. Garlic going in. Give it a nice little stir. It is smelling absolutely divine over here, and we only have onions and garlic in this pot right now. But I'm gonna start to add in some of my other ingredients, a couple tablespoons of balsamic vinegar, just to get a little acidity in there. And I'm gonna add some fresh chopped rosemary, dried thyme. Now I've got a 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour that I'm gonna sprinkle in. And that's gonna be our thickening agent, and it's gonna start to soak up any moisture that's in there. I'm gonna start with red wine. A little red wine braise here. And this time I'm gonna add a couple tablespoons of tomato paste, 2 teaspoons of sugar just to sweeten this up just a hair. I've got some bay leaves, and I've got some Better Than Bouillon. Now you can use beef stock. This is my version of it. This is how I like to do it. And I'm using 4 cups of water. So I'm gonna put in about 4 teaspoons, those 4 cups of water that I talked about. We're gonna go ahead and incorporate those in. I'm gonna stir this around, let everything come together here. And now I can add my beef back into this pot as well. So I've got all of that beef that we browned off. This is a beef stew after all. It was about 3 pounds of Coastal Plains Meat Company beef. So I'm gonna put a lid on this, and we're actually gonna let all of this come together, simmer over this open fire for an hour or so. Then we're gonna be ready to add our potatoes and carrots, cook that for another 20 or 30 minutes until the vegetables are done, and then we're ready to get our stew on. Our stew has been cooking over our nice coal bed for a little over an hour. So now it's time to go with the potatoes and the carrots. I've got some baby Yukon Golds here, which are perfect for this stew. I've got baby carrots here, so I'm also gonna cut these in half, but I'm kinda gonna cut it on a diagonal like this. That way it just adds a little flair to my rustic stew here. So, got my carrots, got my potatoes, getting everything cut up, then we're going right into the pot. Ooh, yeah. Oh, that steam is what I want to see right there. Oh, everything's looking nice. But now I'm going to go in with all of those potatoes that I sliced in half and all of those carrots. And now I'm going to give that another good stir. We're going to put the lid back on. We're going to come back and check on this in 20 to 30. We should have a stew that's ready to eat. All right, guys, our stew has been simmering for several hours. That Coastal Plains Meat Company beef, that Louisiana beef, wonderful for this type of beef stew. I'm gonna lift the lid on this guy, see what we're dealing with here. Oh yeah, you can see all these flavors have really come together. There's 4 bay leaves in here, so pick them out as you go. I do want a little bit of a garnish, so a very rough chop on this parsley is what I'm going for. Live fire Sea Island Forge beef stew. Gonna get plated up, go right into our bowl. That beef's just falling apart. Our carrots and potatoes looking amazing. There we go. Stew's on. Y'all eat.